The Galactic Council's exotic species market buzzed with the usual cacophony of alien languages, but Liza Martinez barely noticed as she pushed through the crowd. Her weathered jumpsuit marked her as just another salvage runner from the outer rim, someone the sophisticated core worlders would dismiss without a second glance. That suited her perfectly fine. Another human wasting credits on defective merchandise, sneered Vorthak, the reptilian trader, his forked tongue flicking dismissively as Liza approached his cramped stall. Behind him, cramped in a barely adequate containment field, huddled what appeared to be the galaxy's most pathetic excuse for a dragon. The creature was no bigger than a house cat, its scales a mottled brown-gray that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. One wing hung at an odd angle, clearly malformed, while the other twitched nervously. Its oversized eyes darted between Liza and Vorthak with what could only be described as resigned terror. "This one's been returned 17 times," Vorthak continued, his business sense warring with his desire to be rid of the creature. "Dwarf dragons are supposed to be fierce companions, living weapons. This pathetic specimen can barely fly, produces no flame, and cowers at loud noises. I'm practically giving it away." James Chen, Liza's partner in their small salvage operation, touched her shoulder gently. "Liza, we need those credits for ship repairs, not—" He gestured helplessly at the trembling dragon. "Whatever this is," but Liza was already kneeling by the containment field, her calloused fingers pressed against the energy barrier. The little dragon's head tilted, and for a moment, their eyes met. In those depths, she saw something the traders had missed entirely. Not defiance or predatory cunning, but intelligence. Pure, brilliant intelligence wrapped in fear and abandonment. "I'll take him," she said quietly. "Her," Vorthak corrected automatically, then caught himself. "It. The creature is an it. Defective breeding stock. No gender classification needed." "Her," Liza repeated firmly, transferring the credits without another word. The dragon, whom Liza immediately dubbed Tip for the white patch on her tail tip, trembled as the containment field dissolved. But instead of fleeing, she pressed herself against Liza's palm, a sound like a tiny purr emerging from her throat. James shook his head as they returned to their ship, the Resilient. "Liza, I've seen you rescue strays before, but this is excessive, even for you." The trader was right. What are we supposed to do with a dragon that can't dragon? Over the following weeks, as they worked salvage runs through the debris fields of Kepler 442, Liza began to understand just how wrong everyone had been about Tip. The little dragon wasn't defective, she was evolved. While other dragons relied on brute force and flame, Tip possessed an almost supernatural ability to sense structural weaknesses. During their first major salvage operation on a derelict Confederation cruiser, Tip would flutter her one good wing and chirp softly whenever they approached unstable sections. James dismissed it as coincidence until the third near miss with a collapsing bulkhead. "She's reading micro-vibrations in the hull," Liza realized, watching as Tip pressed her tiny claws against a seemingly solid wall and shook her head vigorously. Her scales aren't just camouflage, they're sensory organs. But Tip's true gift revealed itself during their encounter with Slari pirates near the Proxima Junction. The pirates' ships surrounded the Resilient, their superior firepower making resistance seem futile. Captain Thorek's scarred face filled their view screen, his tusks gleaming as he prepared his standard boarding demands. But as the pirate ships moved into formation, Tip began exhibiting behavior Liza had never seen before. The little dragon darted frantically around the bridge, her scales shifting from their usual muted brown to brilliant patterns of silver and gold. She chittered rapidly, then suddenly went completely still, staring intently at the main display. "James," Liza said slowly, realization dawning, "I think she's been trying to communicate this whole time. Look at her scales. They're not random. It's a pattern." The patterns were indeed complex, mathematical sequences that corresponded to the pirates' ship positions, power signatures, and weapon charging cycles. Tip wasn't just sensing structural weaknesses. She was processing spatial relationships and energy patterns at a level that would make a tactical computer jealous. Following Tip's guidance, Liza piloted the Resilient through maneuvers that shouldn't have been possible. The little dragon's scales flashed warnings microseconds before weapon locks, guided them through the precise gaps between overlapping fire arcs, and somehow predicted exactly when the pirate's formation would create a momentary escape vector. They broke free of the encirclement so cleanly that Captain Thorek's final transmission was simply a bewildered, "What just happened?" As they reached safe harbor at Titan Station, James stared at Tip with newfound respect. The little dragon had settled into her favorite spot, a nest of soft fabrics Liza had arranged near the navigation console, and was contentedly grooming her good wing. "You know what the really human thing is about all this?" James asked, scratching Tip's chin as she purred. Everyone else saw what she couldn't do and wrote her off. Only a human would look at a useless dragon and see potential instead of problems. Liza smiled as Tip nuzzled against her hand, the dragon's scales shifting to warm, contented patterns of cream and gold. "That's because we humans understand something the rest of the galaxy hasn't figured out yet. There's no such thing as useless, just misunderstood." Word of the human woman and her miraculous dragon spread quickly through the salvager networks. Other traders began bringing Liza their defective creatures, and more often than not she'd find ways to unlock their hidden potential. Soon, the Resilient became known as the ship crewed by impossible beings, the humans who saw value where others saw waste. But Tip remained special. Every morning she would flutter her one good wing and produce what James had started calling her happiness dance, a spinning, bouncing display of pure joy that never failed to make both humans smile. "Look at her go," James would say, watching. Tip's aerial acrobatics around the bridge, flying marshmallow of joy, just like you said, and in the vast, often cold universe that joy, freely given by a creature the galaxy had deemed worthless, reminded them both why humanity's greatest strength had always been its refusal to give up on anyone. Even tiny, broken dragons who turned out to be exactly what they needed all along.